Hello, this is your host, Austin Hopkins, and welcome to the Introvert Leader Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you guys here today. We are going to be chatting about patience during today's episode. But before we do that, quick update on me. Recently, I've been listening to a song called Allures on Dance by an artist called Stormae, Stormae. It's layered, it's funky, it's a mid-2000s dance hit from a French DJ. You got to check it out. You probably have heard it, but recently I've just been listening to it over and over again. Super catchy, really like it. Okay, movie-wise, I recently went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine with the wifey. I gotta tell you, I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm a big Deadpool fan. I like the other two. It was cool to see Wolverine back. I loved the cameos. I love the action. I love the actors. I thought it was solid. Definitely worth going to see for sure. Okay, another quick update. My goal is to keep putting out quality content. I'm absolutely loving doing this. It's been a pleasure over the last 2 years. And if you've ever found value, if you've ever enjoyed listening to the show, I would be delighted if you'd consider supporting the show. And so I have included a link to something called Buy Me a Coffee. There's no pressure at all, but if you feel like you want to donate a little bit to the show, I'd love for you to do so. Okay, with that, what I want to do is transition into a listener Q&A. Okay, today's question is, what salary increase would justify leaving my current company? So, AKA, how much money do I need to get offered in order for me to leave this company that I work at now? So, for me, I think you need to consider more than just the salary when you are debating whether or not you're going to move. So, assuming you've already considered things like job fulfillment, the culture, advancement opportunities, all that jazz, I would say it doesn't make sense to leave your current company for anything less than 10%. And I will say, when you're making less money, 10% is going to mean a lot more to you, right? So as you get later and you're further along in your career, you may not want to move for anything less than 20. So when I was first starting my career as a teller, 10%, gosh, that was a lot of money. So, if there was another company offering me 10%, I might have taken it. But as I got later in my career, I really had kind of told myself, it doesn't make sense, Austin, to leave for anything less than 20%, unless the culture that I'm in right now is really unhealthy and there's, some really good reasons to move. So hopefully that helps. I would say anywhere from 10 to 20%, good range. If you're just starting your career, maybe 10%. If you're further along in your career, I probably wouldn't leave for anything less than 20. Okay, so today we're talking about patience. So why do we want to chat about patience? And I think patience is special. It allows us to give our best to the people around us. It makes the pursuit of big goals possible. And I just think it's something that we can all get better at, right? And I think there's absolutely room for improvement no matter who you are. Even if you're the most patient person in the world, I'm sure you can get more patient. So I want to talk about that today. I'm going to break down some of the risks and benefits of patience and impatience. I want to give you a couple strategies to develop patience for those people around you. And I want to talk about the role of patience in leadership. And we'll wrap it up, of course, a little story time for you. So I want to kick things off by talking about some of the benefits of patience and then some of the risks of impatience. So these are obviously not an exclusive list or exhaustive list. This is just the things that I know have been true in my life. So I'm just going to share with you some of the benefits that I've personally seen from patience. So number one would be, you get the best from those around you, right? When you are patient, you're creating psychological safety. You are showing people empathy. You are showing people a good trait, right? And when you do that, you get good stuff back. So when you put good stuff out, you get good stuff back in. Another big benefit that I've seen is my reputation. When I show patience, when I show that's who I am, I'm the kind of person that can be patient with others. I get better employee morale. I show other colleagues, other teammates, other people within the company a positive thing about my reputation. So it builds that reputation. Another one would be better employee development. I have noticed that when I am patient with my team, when I allow them to work through things, and we'll talk more about that later, they're better. They grow. They get out of their comfort zone. They grow. It's just a fantastic thing to watch employees. When you give them a little psychological safety, when you're patient with them, they get better. And then personally, I've found that I'm happier when I'm pursuing a goal, when I'm able to demonstrate some patience, right? So do I have a huge goal that I'm working on? And can I be patient, right? How long is it going to take to build this business? How long is it going to take for this podcast to get off the ground? How long is it going to take for me to get that promotion at work? How long is it going to take for me able to buy that home? All of these things require patience. And when you decide to just be patient and say, hey, it's going to come, it's going to happen eventually, instead of trying to force it and worry about it, you're happier. So for me, those are some of the big ones. So you get the best from people around you, your reputation grows, you get better employee development, and you're happier when you're pursuing a goal. Those are just some of the big benefits that I've seen in my own life. Okay, what I want to do now, tell you a little bit about some of the risks of impatience. So just like being patient can build your reputation, being impatient can ruin your reputation. People are going to think you're arrogant. People don't want to spend time with people that think they're better than them, people that aren't willing to show empathy. And, I've also noticed that it causes more stress. When I'm impatient, I'm trying to control stuff. I want stuff to happen on my timeline. I don't want to wait for things to play out. And it causes me more stress. So I've really noticed that the more I feed into that, the more stress I feel. And as well, I would say poor decision making is another one that I've experienced. So when I'm impatient, I'm rushing decisions. I'm not letting teammates bring new information to the table, right? And I am, again, just trying to make things happen on my timeline. And when you have your own agenda, you have blinders up, which prevents you from making the best decisions possible. So how can you be more patient? How can you allow things to just play out and just take your time and absorb what's going on and really make sure that you're making the right decisions? Patience seems to really help with that. So I think there's a couple of things that you can do to develop patience. So I want to give you a few strategies that I know have worked for me to help develop patience in my own life, that have helped me as a leader, as a husband, you name it. So first thing I think that really helps me when I'm talking about developing patience is identifying your triggers. So I really believe that all of us have little things that trigger us, and they're different for every single person. And it's impossible to avoid all things that make you lose your patience, right? But it is possible to identify what are the most common things that trigger my impatience, right? So think about like who, what, when, how do you get triggered the most and most regularly, and try to figure out what those moments are, right? And then I think it goes without saying, avoid those triggers when possible. So two of my triggers that I'll share that I've been thinking about recently. One is I don't really like to be super active or talk a lot between the time of 4 to 5 p.m. So I do the 1 meal a day intermittent fasting. I don't eat till 5 o'clock every day. So like right around 4 o'clock, dude, I'm pretty spacey. I'm just not really there. And so I'm probably not going to want to be chatting on the phone during that time. I'm probably not going to want to be doing a lot of things. And so I know that about myself. And so if it's 4 o'clock and my wife wants to do something, I'm probably going to let her know, hey, I'm probably not in the best frame of mind right now to do this. She understands it. I'm aware of it. And then I try to avoid whatever that situation is. The other one, this one's stupid, but it is true for me, is I don't like standing in line. I despise it. I literally think it's the biggest waste of time. I would rather do literally anything else than stand in line. So I avoid standing in line whenever possible, right? I just know it's going to piss me off. I'm going to be impatient. So, we try to make reservations, order stuff online, just avoid lines in general. So again, I think of figuring out what those triggers are and then avoiding them is super easy, right? It kind of makes sense. Something's going to annoy you. So just avoid that thing. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be impatient. I think another one that has really helped me develop my patience is to actually demonstrate or practice that patience. And so how do you develop anything in life? You demonstrate or practice it, right? And the same goes for patience. So, next time someone at work is testing your patience, what I want you to do is label that emotion, label it really quickly in your head. Okay, gosh, I'm feeling impatient right now. I'm getting annoyed. And then I want you to tell yourself that you are going to show patience in that moment. So identify, hey, this is annoying. I'm impatient. I want to cut this person off. I want to say something, kind of snarky. I want to snap at him. Okay, but wait, I'm going to show patience right now. So labeling it and then telling yourself and actually demonstrating or practicing the patience. So you can't just say, I want to be a more patient person without putting it into practice. This is how you do it. You find a moment that you'd normally be impatient and then you show your patience. That's how you do it. And of course, over time, the more you demonstrate it, right, the more you practice it in those moments, it's going to become second nature. And then eventually it's not really as hard because you've done it so many times before. So I'm not saying that it's going to become the easiest thing of all time. You're still going to have your triggers. You're still going to get annoyed with people. Things are still going to come up, but it's going to be easier to do the right thing in those moments almost automatically. Another really interesting strategy to develop patience is to practice empathy. And I really like to think of patience as a form of empathy. So imagine you're in the shoes of another person who is making you impatient. Would you like some grace in that moment? Is there anything going on that maybe is beyond your control, or is there more going on than meets the eye? If the answer is yes, then you need to remember that patience for others is just you showing your empathy and putting yourself in their shoes. And so at the end of the day, I think empathy is something we could all get better at, right? Even the most sympathetic people can get better at that. How can we imagine what it's like to be in the shoes of the other person? How can we take away judgment and realize, hey, man, maybe they're just doing the best that they can? So I really like to think that practicing empathy is another way of showing patience, right? We're putting ourselves in the shoes of others. We want to have people be patient with us, so we're going to be patient with others. So identifying your triggers, avoiding them when possible, demonstrating your patience, and then practicing empathy, those are the 4 that have really, really worked for me to develop patience. I would also say, before we move on to the next one, this is a decision that you have to make. This is a mindset, right? So you can't just wish that you want to get better at this. You have to commit and tell yourself, I want to become a more patient person with the people around me. And if you make that decision, almost make that part of your identity, it's going to make these strategies come to life even more because it's your identity. You've decided that this is who you're going to be. This is how you're going to carry yourself. This is what you're going to put out into the world. So you first got to make that decision. And then those strategies, boom, they're going to help. Okay, I want to transition and talk a little bit about patience and leadership because I really think that patience can unlock some really cool stuff within a team environment and can take leadership from good to great, from great to amazing. So a couple of things that I was thinking about when it came to patience and leadership and how those have meant to me. One is, I really believe that as a leader, when you show patience to your team, it gives them confidence to take risks. So things like looking stupid when they're learning something new, right? If you're patient with them and say, hey, that's okay to look stupid and to learn something new and get out of your comfort zone, they're going to be more willing to do that, right? Are you overlooking their small mistakes, right? Patience means I'm not going to be nickel and diming them for everything they do wrong. I'm going to overlook the small stuff and I'm going to focus on the big stuff. Are they adding value overall? Can I forget the small thing that they made a mistake on? I believe that shows patience. As well, I think it also inspires problem solving, right? When I'm patient and I show my teammates, hey, I'm not going to swoop in and figure this out for you. You're going to figure it out yourself. They're going to get better at problem solving. So, for example, if you want your team to take risks, the best results come from your team stretching their abilities and adding more value. So in order for them to do that, they need to feel safe. They need to know, hey, my boss is patient with me while I figure this out. My boss is patient with me while I make mistakes. My boss is patient with me as I get out of my comfort zone. They're going to be willing to take those risks. They're going to add more value. Their output's going to be better. So I really believe patience equals confidence in your team. Next one. I think this kind of goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. As a leader, you need to demonstrate what you want your team to do, right? So if I demonstrate that I'm going to treat people with respect, my team is then going to, in turn, most likely treat others with respect. Same thing goes with patience. If I'm going to show them patience, how are they going to then treat their customers, their colleagues, and each other? Most likely, they're going to show patience because, hey, their boss, the guy who's doing that all day to them, is being patient. So they're going to pick that up and move along with that and show that to others. So, for example, this could look like, maybe you're leading a meeting one day, right? And one of the folks on your team starts to ramble a little bit during that part of the meeting, right? And you could quickly shut them up and kind of make them feel stupid, or you could give them a chance to save their dignity, wrap it up quickly, and then move on. Your team is going to see how you handle that situation, and they're going to take that and run with it. So how do you handle those situations? You show patience. You don't make them feel stupid or look stupid or, quickly interrupt them. But you do it in a casual way that just shows, hey, I still value your opinion, but hey, we need to keep it moving. So that's one way you could show patience that then, again, your team is going to take that and run with it and display that to others. I also think patience makes your employees better. I think that's the last one that really stands out to me. And I talked about it a minute ago, but they're going to be better at problem solving because you don't step in. I've had managers where they want to do everything for me. If it's not done how they want it, when they want it, exactly on their time frame, they step in and do it. Well, what do you think that shows the employee? My boss doesn't trust me. I don't need to try. They're just going to do it anyways. So if you want them to get better at problem solving, you're going to need to be patient, right? And there's been so many times where I want to step in and do something for my team, but my lack of patience stunts their development. So I hold back. Like I can remember so many times where I've had teammates where I've said, hey, can you put this presentation together? And the presentation just didn't look good. And I was like, gosh, man, should I just do this? Should I just step in and fix this presentation? It would take me like 20 minutes and it's going to take them 2 days. Well, I decided, okay, what's the short-term benefit? If I do it myself, it gets done. That's great. But the team doesn't do it. So I've not learned how to delegate. They've stunted their growth. So I'm going to be patient. So I think that really helps. As well, I think they develop more resilience. Your employees get better resilience because they have to skin their knees, right? They have to figure it out themselves. No one's doing it for them. And when we have to learn ourselves and be creative to come up with the solutions as opposed to someone just doing it for us, we are getting better at being resilient. So they're going to be better problem solvers. They're going to be more resilient. They're just going to be better in general when you are a patient leader. So I think patience and leadership is so important. And it's something that I think is really kind of separated me, I would say, from other leaders, is that I just remember what it felt like to be a noob at each of these positions. So how in the world could I then judge or be impatient with the people who are underneath me that are learning and growing just like I did? So if you are a leader, I highly, highly encourage you to do a little self-audit of what your patience tolerance is like. Are you a patient person? Are you showing that to your team? Are you giving them the confidence to take risks? Are you making them better? Or are you being impatient, doing it yourself, and making the people around you worse? So something to consider. Okay, today I'm going to wrap it up with a quick story. Kind of a shorter episode today, but I still feel like there's some value that you can extract. And I want to wrap it up by telling you a quick story about a time where patience was the key ingredient to success. So years ago, I hired a new high net worth banker who was going to work out of the call center of a company I worked for. And I had interviewed lots of folks, but I had met this gal named Amber who blew me away. I mean, she had been at the company for a few years and wanted to try something new. She had a good reputation. She did have a reputation of being tough, but she also had a reputation of really caring about her customers and also getting results. I think she had a natural ability to handle rejection, and she didn't seem to get flustered easily, which I think is actually a really cool attribute for someone to have in the sales game, because she was going to get rejection and she was going to be trying new things and people might be getting annoyed with her. But if you don't get flustered easily, then you can handle it, right? So hired her. I came down to California. I lived in Washington at the time to help onboard her and teach her the new sales process that we use in her team. In her previous role, there was not really a sales process. So this was going to be totally new. And, I had committed to her that we were going to spend a few days practicing each step of the new sales process and really cement that by doing a lot of role playing. I believe as a leader that role plays are incredibly valuable, and I use them anytime I wanted someone to learn something new. So I remember we sat in this little room with windows overlooking the call center, and we began practicing. And I could tell right away that she was nervous. And I'll be honest, she wasn't doing great at first, and I was getting a little nervous for her. I'm thinking, I really hope she can get this, right? But to her credit, she stayed with it. I would demonstrate the new phrasing or a new part of the sales process. I turn it over to her, she'd practice, and she really struggled for the first day or two. And I think we were there for maybe a total of 4 to 5 days. And I'll be honest, even for a split second, I thought, man, can she get this? At this point in my career, teaching this kind of sales process was very basic. I would be lying if I said I wasn't bored. Maybe that's bad to say, but that's the reality. Imagine like teaching your parents how to text for 4 days straight. Like it gets old, right? You've done it. It's very basic to you. But I remembered it wasn't about me, right? I remembered in that moment, hey, this isn't about your needs, Austin. This isn't about you getting impatient or wanting to do something else. Like this is about her. This is about Amber. And I trusted the process that she was going to get it. And sure enough, she started to pick it up. And slowly but surely, hour after hour, I could see her starting to get more confidence. The smiles were there. And it was awesome just to see how she blossomed throughout those few days. So fast forward a few months later, and I watched Amber rise to the top of the leaderboard. I mean, she was an absolute monster, just putting up results day after day, month after month in a very tough environment. These are phone sales appointments all over the phone, high net worth people across the country. It's not easy, but she's doing it. She's killing it. And I watched her teach, in fact, what she learned. And she literally became a rock star of the team. And, I think back to those kind of painful days in that little room with the windows, right? Amber was struggling, but she kept moving forward. And because she had the opportunity to learn at her pace, to make mistakes, to look stupid, she rised to heights that I literally couldn't have even imagined. And I remember Amber at one point even thanking me for being patient with her in that room. And I still think about that lesson I learned from the value of patience and what it can do for someone's career. You give somebody the patience when they need it, when they're struggling, when they don't feel secure, and trust that they're going to get where they need to go. Trust that the process is going to work. And sure enough, it does. And so really thankful to Amber, and just, again, impressed with what she did. And I think she has done an amazing job at that company. And I think, the sky's the limit for that girl. I think she can go wherever she wants because she's got the skills. She's got the natural ability. So hopefully today's quick episode was helpful. You learned a little bit about my approach to patience. What are some of the risks? What are some of the benefits? What it can mean for leadership? What it can do for your own life? Again, I want to say thank you so much for listening. Make it a great day. This has been the Introvert Leader Podcast. Subscribe for new episodes every other Wednesday.